So if I'm going to edit this from being a prefab wood truss, this system, I have to go in and change it to lumber. And that means you're given in your template the 2x12 and the 2x10. Then you have to create the 2x4 and the 2x6. And you do by duplicate and edit. So this member is going to be a 2x4. So I change that. Then that breaks the back of my truss. So I have to change that one. So that one gets changed, the same thing. In Utah, and this is where my problems start to begin. Because I broke this truss, now they don't line up, which is always helpful on lots of levels. This one is also going to be a 2x4. This over here is going to be a 2x4. And I was just about to say, in Utah, everything about our trusses, the top cords and all the web members are always built, well, not always, but 90% of the time, they're going to be built out of 2x4s. Mainly because it's efficient, that it meets the strength requirements, and it saves little problems. And I got multiple things stuck. What is going on? I'm holding the key down. I'm trying to talk and do two things at once. Okay, so once you get this kind of worked out, then you've got to go through and edit the crud out of this. The bottom cord is going to be a little different. You want to be selected. There you go. The bottom cord is typically a 2x6. Gives a little more rigidity to it, a little more strength. I'm not going to go about changing all of these. Then you have to go through and edit every piece together. And so this is where it gets really fun. Just get the front view on this. So if I'm looking just at this view, and you have to use your tab key to select those elements, because and then they're all locked. Now, once you get them all changed around, just to select these. Notice they're all locked. I have to unlock those so I can redesign the truss, because the 3D model is not going to be anywhere near what you want it to be. And again, I have to do this every time my truss changes height or changes pitch. I have to redesign it. And so if you're doing a hip roof, everything on the hip side of that roof, you have to do this to. Every single one individually, which is a take up a ton of time and eat up all of your profits, because we don't need to do it. But here's what you would do. You then have to come in, take the elemental piece, stretch that down, or if you have an overhang, extend that out. This is the case of a hip truss. And you have to do that literally on each piece individually. And you're just going to take each and extend them up through and carry it down into. And I'll do one more and I'll show you what the next point. So that's only 2 steps of this process. And this one extends up and extends down all the way back down into here. Once you get that part done, and you can look at this from different angles, that looks relatively okay, but it's not quite correct, because Revit's going to give you an error message on that, because you have solids in the same place as solids. So at that point, then you come in and you're going to use a coping tool. And that's this tool right here. It's underneath the steel. It says cope. And what you do is you select the parent and then the child. And if it's not the way you want it, you might have to switch that around, because so it cuts the beams. And you just do that to each one as you go. Oh my goodness. And try and get the look that you want. And depends on how you, and we're back to where we started. So now all we've done is simplified the work on it, but it's definitely not going to be pretty. And so you end up going back. I'm doing everything twice in order to fix it. This is why we did not do the 3D trusses. Doesn't make sense. I did get a couple people ask about that over the weekend. Why don't we just do the 3D trusses? Well, this is why. It's a lot of work. And like I said, if you're doing a hip, this ridge top drops with each truss, and you have to do each one of those individually. and I have to do all your jacks, and you spend more time editing trusses, and it's just really not worth your time. Now, if you wanted to be really particular about it, you could create individual families, but that means you're using the same type of roof on every house you do, and that's just not feasible either, because your clients don't usually do that for you. So that, I just want to let you know why. You know, you can spend a lot of time on these, clean them up, and then you can copy these all out. Once you get all done, then you have to go back in, select the whole thing again, and relock them together so they're pinned again, so it all becomes one element. Otherwise, it's just a lot more work, okay? So there is that explanation for you. I will put in, I'll put some videos in the, well, there are videos in the course on how to do these, if you want, so inclined to do them. But there are a lot of work. Go back to the roof framing so I can get that easier. Check that out. Okay, I'm gonna move to the first floor, and this is what we're at today. And actually, we're gonna do this on every floor. Is you should now be at the point where it's time to put dimensions on this. And this will take you, this will be on the next grade period. It will not be on this grading cycle because you probably will not finish it today, because it's just so intense. I'm going to start by showing you the basement. I usually do the main floor first, but then I get to the basement and they're done wrong. So I want to start this way, and I'm just going to clean this up just a little bit. So I have my basement walls. They're concrete. There's a few walls in there. If I have a window, I'll put a window in there so you can see a window. What that's going to do, and I'm just going to stick one in into that point there. I'm not going to go about doing the whole basement design, but I'm going to give you enough information so you know what you're doing. Okay. When we dimension, there are some things that have to be in place. One, we need to know what size basement we have, so how much concrete to order. We order concrete by the cubic yard, so that's a 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot block of concrete that we order, and we have to be able to calculate the volumes. So in your math class, the volume formulas become really important to you as you work through those. Now, one of the things that will come up is, especially on the Architecture 3 test, is you have to figure out the volume of a wall. Well, Revit's going to do that for you, okay? Which is really, really nice. If you, and this is made for Architecture 3 for your state test, woohoo! If you click on your modify, you just select a wall. When you come over to the side, oh, come on, you didn't show it. Sorry, I gotta be an elevation, my bad. So I come onto the elevation view and I select the wall. And I'll just go with this one here. Right here under dimensions, in the elevation area, it's going to tell you the length of the wall, the area of the wall, so that's length and height, and that's to give you the cubic foot of the wall. Okay, on your state test for Architecture 3, that is the values you're looking for, and that'll be deduct if there's a window in there, if you pick just the wall and not the window. So remember, this is where you're going to get a lot of your answers from. In the Architecture 3 test, you're going to have to build a little shed. It's going to have a door and a window and a shed roof on it. And you have to figure out the area of the roof, the area of the front wall, and the area of the side wall, with and without windows, and with a slope to them. So you're going to have to change the slope a couple times. So you'll be doing a drawing in Revit to do that. And when we get back from Thanksgiving, we'll start looking at those reviews, as well as still finishing up our drawing. Can you pull that door shut? I don't know what they're doing out there today, but it's all crazy. Okay, so part of our dimensioning then is, yes, we can do this on the model, and that's going to help get the estimate down. But then we've got the guys that are on the job site that may or may not have a laptop with them. Usually there is now. In fact, if you go into a construction trailer now, they don't roll out blueprint paper anymore. There's a big screen TV, kind of like the one here in the room. They open up the file, and they go off of that for their notes. They might have a couple of small note sheets or detail sheets that they send out to the job site. But because they're fined now for litter, big time in most cities, we don't want paper flown around our job site, and we don't want files to get away. So a lot of it has gone digital now in the construction industry. If you are watching the news, and it's starting to get a little bit better to watch news again, but we are seeing now, especially in construction, we now have robots that will put up drywall. There's some good and bad to that. One, drywall is not a fun thing to do, but it is a majorly essential part of construction and a big area of employment for a lot of people. These robots have the potential of removing an entire industry. So there's a little controversy about that. They go in, one guy is just there to monitor, make sure the robots don't do something stupid. But they have two robots, they put the drywall up, they screw it in the wall, they put the tape on, they mud it, and they do it all, including they have little heaters on them that dry the mud as it goes. So they're shortening the time it takes, which saves us money, but it could be the end of an entire industry within construction, the subcontractors that do drywall. So kind of something to worry about there. All right, so on the basement, when we dimension masonry, that's concrete, brick, stone, stucco is actually in masonry as well. When we dimension a wall system, and I'm going to compare how I have a footing, we need a couple dimensions on there. So our dimensions then annotate, and we have aligned, linear, angular, radial, diametrical, arcs, and so those are main dimension areas. When we start putting dimensions onto things, we need a couple of things that we are just to show. Now, we do have a building section still to do and a wall section, but we need to identify where we're talking on the plan as well. So typically, you will dimension the footing, and here's what gets a little tricky. When you dimension in Revit, it's by ends of line, so corners. So from that corner to that corner, that tells me the footing size. Now, you can go in and move your text so it's off the object, and like so. It does have ability, you can edit these leader lines if you want. Right now it's a leader, I can take that off. Now there's no leader. I would suggest you leave the leader on so you know where the dimension goes, okay? You also need to do one dimension, and usually I try and do it twice. But when I'm dimensioning, I'll try and put a dimension like a footing size. That's an 18-inch or 20-inch footing. If I come over somewhere else and I'm not showing them here, I would show that as well. Most of that information will come from a chart or a schedule from the engineer, but I want to show where those sizes are. I also want to show my wall thickness. So 2 corners here again. And you do need to make sure you identified your wall thicknesses. Not every point, but where it's going to be visible by the contractor. And put that there. And then to talk about this guy right now, I'm going to move him out, or her out. I guess it could be a her. It's an 8. Pull that up. Okay, so on this, I have a 0 foot indicator. This will throw your contractors off like no other there is. If they do get paper, it's going to be Xerox copies of enlarged details or parts of the drawings. If we're Xeroxing things, if they're not needed, they can get misconstrued. Maybe there's an ink blot on there or a smudge, or if it's just right out, definitely a smear can happen, especially if it's raining and things bleed. So typically in architecture, if it's less than a foot, we only show the inches. So we need to change this setting, and that's our first setting to change. That is in our manage area. And we're going to go to units. Let's see. How many units? Oh, there's units. Looks like a little digital clock. It should be easy to find units. And I'm going to click on length. And this is where my settings are. You do not need to go to the nearest 32nd of an inch. Not for architecture. For cabinetry, yes. If you're working in a cabinet shop and that's the career you choose to go after, because you like to design furniture and cabinets and that kind of thing, then yes, we go to the nearest 32nd of an inch. But in the building of a building, we do not. We go typically to the nearest half inch. Because anything within that inch to half inch range is negligible and can be fixed with a sledgehammer. And literally they'll do that. They'll take the chalk line, they'll mark on the floor the walls go. If the walls shifted a little bit because they've nailed it in already, they just take a sledgehammer and knock it over where it's supposed to go. That's how they do it. You do want to go in, if you're the designer and you do an inspection, you do want to take a level with you and make sure when they knock the bottom of the wall over, they also knock the top of the wall over so it's not slanted and you have a vertical line. You usually can't see that on framing. It's hard to see when they're tilted. It shows up a little bit more on drywall, but it really shows when the homeowner hangs a painting and the bottom of painting is hanging away from the wall. Then you get a call and to fix that then becomes very expensive. So when you do your inspections as a designer, just spot check a few walls to make sure that everything's going up and down like it's supposed to. It's just a good habit to get into. The other thing I want to check on here is I want to stay in feet and inches. Well, the United States is not going to be going metric on home building anytime soon. In fact, I doubt the US will ever change the metric system. The amount of money it would take to do that is astronomically insane, and we've kind of gone beyond the point of no return now. But the suppressed 0 feet, that's what I want to use. So just put a check mark there. Once I hit OK, and I hit OK here, that changes that. I'm just going to do a quick save. So now it's just a simple 8 inches. A little easier, takes up less space. So I'm going to modify this dimension one more time because it's at an intersection where they change. So I'm going to pull this guy down, hopefully, maybe. Get that dot and pull these guys down a little bit. It's one of those days, isn't it? Move that down. I want to be by the wall, not mixed up with what's going here. Because I'm changing wall thicknesses on the basement plan, I also need to show the wall above, or the thicker wall as well. And I'm going to just pop that up to this corner, way up there. And then I got to force that in. And so I can see that, again, moving things around as I need to make it easier to understand what's going on. And then I'll pull that one out as well. So I want to make sure the contractor knows I'm changing foundation thicknesses if I do that. I want these dimensions near each other so they don't get missed, because I don't want an 8-inch foundation wall where a 10-inch one's required. If I get the 10-inch one where the 8 inches, it's going to cost me more, but I'm not going to compromise the structure, not have it fall down on me. So I'm okay with that. Now, when we dimension a building, and I'm going to go to this side because it's got a window here, an opening. The foundation typically only has 3 levels. You might have 4 levels of dimensions on the main floor as we get to that. But the first dimension that you need, and this applies to all of them, the difference here on the main level or on the basement level is with concrete, you always dimension to the corners. Always, whether it's a corner of an opening for a window, a corner of the wall, it's always the corners because that's where the forms are. And we'll talk about the other floors as we go. So I'm going to do a linear dimension. It's going to go from this corner all the way over to the other side. This is our first dimension that goes the furthest out. Sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze. This is called the overall dimension. You need one of these on every side of your house. So if your house has weird angles, you have lots of them. So this value right here, in this case, it's 81 foot 9, which makes it a little sad. This is the size of the hole needed, the minimum size hole for the foundation to be in. The contractor's going to take that number and then add 6 feet to it. So then go 3 feet on the left and 3 feet on the right for an oversized dig so that the foundation pit does not collapse on somebody. You don't want someone buried alive putting up your foundation wall. It happens. It happens way too often. Currently, the rate right now in Utah is 1 a year, where someone's working on a foundation and the side walls collapse and they get buried alive. Last year, they're fortunate the guy was able to get pulled out. It did crush one lung, so he had to have a a lung surgery there. Usually it'll break ribs if you can get them out, but that's a lot of dirt. 3 feet of dirt is a lot. And you don't want to be buried in that. So that's your first dimension. Your placement is from the most outer point of your house, visually what looks like 3 inches to you. Okay, you're not going to measure it. It's just going to look like 3 inches. If you don't know what that is, about 3 fingers worth, okay, away from your building. You can put that on your screen. Then your next string of dimensions is going to do all of your corners. So we're going to start again at the corner over this side here. And I'm just going to pick every corner. And you can just keep going along here. And you're going to create what's called a string dimension. And that's going to come up about maybe 3/8 of an inch below your overall dimension. And they're just going to all string along there. Notice 1/2 inch is our smallest denominator there that we're looking at. If you have 1/2 inch, you better have another one, especially if your overall ends in a whole number. So just do a quick check, make sure I'm not missing something. Okay, so every corner is your second string. Now we got to do openings. Now I've only got one opening on this side, it's a window. So I technically do not need one here, okay? But I would probably have a window there in reality, but I want to show you the windows. That's going to go from this corner down to the corner of your window, then get the next corner of your window, and notice I'm already flipping directions. So I gotta, where your icon is located is gonna determine things. So don't panic, don't click too fast. Over to this point, and that's the slide up about 3/8 of an inch below your next one. Okay? So this gives me where my window size is. We'll put the window notes and the door notes on after we get all the dimensioning done, because what I found is if I do that first, then I'm moving things around way too much for the dimensions. I want to keep it nice and clean. So you're going to go ahead and do this on every side. I'm going to do this side with the porch, so you can see that real quick. Again, I'm going to do an overall from this side. This side's overall is different from the right side. Don't try and bring this information all the way across. That's one, it's confusing, and one, if this wall doesn't line up, it's going to be a wrong number. It's going to really throw them off a little bit. So keep it clean. I'm coming all the way up to the porch. Again, about what would look like 3 inches. And then I'm going to put in the next set of dimensions for the porch line. So I'm going to go from here down to where the porch would be. I'll go back, it's going the wrong way here. Try and keep your numbers going the same direction. It just kind of helps things line up a little bit. So I'm going to go here and then down to this corner because that's the outside edge of my house. That comes over to here and then to the outside edge of my porch. And I pull that one out. So don't forget to bring your porch numbers in. So I'm going outside edges each time. Outside edge of the house, outside edge of the porch, since I have that dimension, okay? Now, if I have this wall here, and I'm gonna modify this just a little bit to make it kind of more to the point, and then bring this wall all the way over. If you have a wall that comes in contact with an exterior wall, you can dimension that on the outside of your house. So this would count as my corners, just like this second string here. If I have windows, that would be my third string in there, or my fourth, depending on what it is. So this, where you dimension the openings, like doors and windows, that should always be closest to the building, okay? Closest to the building. If I've got a wall, that's gonna be my second furthest from the wall. So that's gonna also look like this. And I'll add a window so it makes it clear. Coming down to the corner of the house. Now I go to the edge of the stud, and then they go down to the house corner again and pull this out. Now, this is where things become a little bit more subject to who you work for, okay? If I'm in here, I could go to the center of the stud. I can try and do a modify on this and move this endpoint. You're more likely to get it if you're doing a line. Sometimes not. I've got this set to do the outside faces, is what the deal is. Some firms want you to dimension to the center of the wall. What that does is it means that the contractor, if it's a 2x4 wall, they have almost 2 inches of latitude where that wall could be off. I don't like them to move my walls around. One, it changes the square footage of rooms. So if I'm doing a bedroom with minimum size of 10 by 10, that's 100 square feet. If they shift those walls 2 inches, I don't meet the minimum square footage requirement, and that room cannot be called a bedroom legally. Now, most of the time, you're not having a problem with that. But there are some inspectors in both Salt Lake County and Utah County that bring now laser measuring tools, where they put it in the middle of the room, they measure that room. If it's less than the allowable square footage, they will deny your permit and you have to refix that room. So because of that, because the way technology changes, I try and remove as much of that guess stuff as possible to force the contractor to pay attention to what they're doing. Because it says save me money in the long run. I don't get paid until the house is done. And the contractor doesn't get paid until the house is done. And I'd rather get my money before I can't, type thing. So when I put a wall in on the outside, I'll add one more detail or one more note. And I will do the face of stud to the face of stud. And I'll bring out that wall thickness. And again, I notice how Revit will clear up the line so it does not go through the text. But you are more than welcome to take this little dot underneath the text and do a leader line out just to make it a little cleaner. The idea is that your dimensions are clean and easy to read. But I do that every time a wall comes out, so I make sure that that wall is placed where it needs to be. It's just one of those things that saves me issues down the road, because when I'm done with the set of plans, I want to be done with it. I don't want to have to be coming back and making changes and change orders and addendums and all that kind of stuff. I want that to all be done and not fret over what's going on there, okay? Now, this wall thickness is dimensioned. I don't have to put that thickness anywhere else along this entire wall, okay? So likewise on your garage doors, you're gonna wanna put those in. I'm gonna throw in a couple more windows here real quick, just to show you the next line. And I'm not even gonna care where they're at right now. So my line shows my wall location. I got jogs, walk-in, then openings. And we'll go linear again. And so again, once you get going, it's just a matter of picking points and keeping your strings. I'm gonna skip over the wall because that's already taken care of here. The windows will be made in the concrete. So they have to be kind of blocked out in that concrete wall before anything else can happen. Corner of the house. And this is gonna come a little tight here. I'm gonna place that right there. And I want to look at my note right here, the 12-foot note. Again, that's complicated, a little confusing. I'm just going to slide it over so that's easier to read. Okay, now you can do some other things here. You can pull this whole string up and then take your wall and pull it down. You can do that if that makes it look a little cleaner to you. That's also acceptable, just to keep things clean. Notice these tick marks are really important. They're what tell where that dimension ends. There's not a tick mark at this point, so I know the 12 goes between these two marks. Okay, the main floor is a little more complicated, basically the same thing. We jump to the first floor now. It gets complicated because there's now all kinds of stuff on your plan. You've got walls, you've got doors, you've got cabinets and tubs and showers and stoves and refrigerators all over your house plan. Now, like I said, I usually still stay with the opening. I don't like things to change, but I'm going to change for you. And I'm going to change my settings so you can know how to do that. That's in Manage. It's under, let's see, Dimension Styles. Let's go additional settings, and there's temporary dimensions. Oh, where's that? Okay. Trying to figure out what, I can't remember what all goes. I don't change this very often. So I'm under linear types is what I just did, so you can see our map. And what I'm looking down through here is what's allowed and what I'm using. This can all be adjusted. So my tick marks are using 1/8 of an inch. That's kind of standard. Occasionally change that. Your dimension line is about 3/32 of an inch thick on there. Same with your text and your offset. So all this can be changed as you go. What I was looking for is my snaps. So I just want to change those. I think I'm just going to change them here. Yeah, right here. Yeah, so my snaps are all set. That's not going to tell me where dimensions go. I want dimension to like the center of the wall or so forth. That is back under my temporary dimensions. There's another one, but I can't remember where it's at, so I apologize for that. So under additional settings, remember we set these temporary dimensions a long time ago, and it lets our dimensions measure center of stud and center wall. This also affects your dimensions as well. So if you want to change those, you're welcome to do that. I do want to change a couple of other things here, I think. I can figure out where I want to do those at. And like I say, don't usually do it this way, so I'm a little sorry about that. Yeah, I think it's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so if I do my change here, and under my temporary dimensions, and I go to the center of my openings, and I'll leave my wall faces alone. Typically, I want to measure studs. That's the wood studs of the wall. The brick's a standard thing. They're not going to change that thickness, but these center lines I want to change. So if I do that, and I go back into my annotation and my linear, again, I'm going to work on all 4 sides exactly the same way that I did with the basement. You're going to start with your overall. Don't come out here to your brick, because you might find that different manufactured brick are a little thinner. Typically, they're 3 5/8 of an inch thick, but there's a couple of the newer, I guess, brick yards. Most of our brick in Utah comes from 2 places. One is down by Lehigh. It's standard brick. It's just off the freeway there. You got the little dome kilns. There's another one that is up in Ogden that does brickwork for residential. Theirs are a little bit smaller. They're 3 5/8 instead of 7/8. So it just depends on who you get from. So I could come into the stud wall, and I'm going to take this all the way across to this wall, and also highlight those corners in the main floor plan because there's more information to work with. This becomes my overall. That will not necessarily match your basement foundation wall. If it does, I'd be surprised. So I've got 81.3 here. If I go to the basement, that same dimension is 81.9. So there's an extra 6 inches. And that's because my foundation wall has to sit underneath the brick. Okay. So that's where you're looking at. You've got 3 inches of foundation that your brick sits on. And so that 5/8 or 7/8 extra inches is overhang. And so you want to make sure that's your intent. Make sure you think about what's going on there. That'll become more and more evident the more houses you do. Then once I do that, it's all the corners. So I do my next set of dimensions, start at the same point again. And I'm going to grab each of these corners and create a continuous string. Strings are really important that they stay lined up and organized. And so everything's all good. I just lost my string. Yep, I messed my string up. Oh, well, this I call it good right now. No, I'm not. I have to fix that. So if you miss a string, you will have to come back in. And these are all connected together. And notice it says not equal is cut out there because if you make them equal, then it will shift your entire house. So be careful with that. You need to lock these two. So they're not going to change. I'm going to take this endpoint here and bring it back to where it should be. Then lock that down. Okay, now typically you don't lock your dimensions until you're done. But if you're modifying them, you don't want to lock them so these don't change. And then I come back in. Oops, I missed. Look at what I did. I went to the face. Make sure you're putting your dimension. Now I can go up and down at that point. To move it's the middle one. Just kind of a pain in the neck sometimes to get that number right. So pay attention to what you do when you're editing. Then I need to add a new one. And you can do this and modify. I can just pick up right here and put dimensions on again. And make sure it's lined up. And go to the next point. And then I want to line those up again. Okay, don't come down and make a break in it. Don't come above, make sure it lines up. Okay. So that fixes that string. That's just the jogs. That tells me where every corner goes. It's also starting to tell me room size. And then I've got windows here and here and here. So I'm going to start with that next. And I'm not going to do all four sides because it's the same thing on all of them. Okay. So I'm going to come down, pick up at this corner. And notice I'm not at the right point. So cancel before you get too far. Get the right. Everything's got to line up. Those half inches catch you. This is going to go to my window openings. So I'm going to go to each side of the window. Oops, I'm not doing that way. I'm not doing it that way. I did it, changed it. I forget. Bad memory, getting old. This is going to the center of the window now. So I want to come in here and find that center point and grab that. And then I go to the next window, find that center point, grab that one. Then I'm back to the face of the wall. And then back to the center of the window. And it's typically in these mullion areas. I just lost it. And you will drop your dimensions from time to time. Don't freak out. Just pick up where you leave up and go on again. Now, when I look at this, those are not equally spaced. Maybe they should be. It depends on your design. But that's one thing that you look at real fast is your windows where you want them to be. And then you continue on around, then these two, then these three, come on around. Now keep in mind that if you have high bathroom windows, they may not show on your floor plan. You then need to still find them if they're up really high above your ceiling line or up in your ceiling line, that you get those dimensions. Okay, now interior walls, I've got one here. Sometimes we'll just go ahead and finish what I'm doing. So wall, center of the window. And notice when I get down here, these windows are backwards. They're in there wrong. So that's nice. Good thing to find. So that's always good. Get that going up the right direction. Bring that one up. Back to my wall. Got a boring day. Gotta fix that in a minute. And I'm gonna keep going. I'll come back and fix some things here in a minute. It's because I want to get this all in here. It's a little guy. I just messed it all up. Yep, missed it. So I've messed that up big time. I'm going too fast, not paying attention to what I'm doing. One more time. And this is one of the reasons why I don't like to do the center of the windows. It's a little harder to dimension because you got to get the exact center of the opening, not the window. So that's right here where this dot is. Now I got to come to the next window, and it should be in the same spot. Get that one. Now I got to get the wall, and every time make sure that one's off. So I'm just going to match that for heck's sake. You can come over and grab this one's on the other side. Get that one, pull up before you click by accident. It helps a little bit. It's just a little annoying. And this one I'm not finding my center point. So that's where my issues are kind of coming in. So I'm gonna count my losses, and I'm just gonna go to the end here right now and pull that up, okay? So I need to add a window in. Again, it might be easier once in a while for you to take a modify by just pulling this guy over And again, make sure you can modify it. You'll find the right blue button. And do you know why I'm having a problem with this one? Do you have an idea why this is not one dimension? It's pretty simple, really, when you get it figured out. This window, if I click on it, is 5'6" off of the floor. My dimensions are 3 foot off the floor. That's where they're at. So this point does not exist as far as the dimensions are concerned. So when that happens, go into your architectural tool, grab a model line, find that midpoint, and bring a model line out so you can see where that's at. The model line is on the floor. It's within that 3 foot range. So then you can come back, modify your dimension. Again, it's the middle, not the end, it's the middle. Bring that over, and you can grab that point. Now you can adjust it, then take the bottom line and stretch it down. Now, I've got that hidden line, that model line there. I'm going to delete it because it's actually a solid line. I didn't change it to the hidden line type. Whoops. So when I delete that, not the window. Good night, what a day. I want just that, hopefully. Nope. Okay, let me pull this guy up again. If I delete that, oh, they're tied together, my bad. I gotta change this line type because if I made a center line for earlier, it needs to just be a line. That'll make it green, so it's not gonna print. Then I can take the end point of this line, pull it down. This case, when I do this, you can't delete them. You'll take your dimension, but it is a fix for when your window is above your cut plane. Now, I want you to look really careful. There is a gap between this window and the dimension line. In fact, this is called an extension line. The extension line extends from the dimension. So this is the dimension of the text. The line underneath the text is the dimension line. The slash mark here is a terminator. And then the line going down from the terminator to the object is the extension line. There needs to be a gap between the extension line and the object so that they're not connected. It's just a little gap. It's only 1/16 of an inch in real time, real space. So very, very tiny. But I'm going to pull this one down and mimic that to about there so that it does exist. And then I'm going to add my last dimension onto here so I can do what I really wanted to show you. And then I'll stop talking here in just a minute. So I'm going to pick up this dimension. And again, that line should still be there, right there. And that's come over. I got the wrong window, that's why I didn't have it. And it comes from this little point right there's that line. And it's going to go to the end of my wall, back up, line it up, and fix that dimension. Now I do have a wall right here. And once I get my wall in, now I'm going to go back to my settings again. And that's in my modify, and that is, sorry, my manage, and my additional settings, temporary dimensions. I'm going to switch this now so my walls are centered. If this is what your client wants you to do, okay? And I'm going to switch it back in a minute because I'm not a fan of doing it this way. So I'm going to go back into my annotation, and I'm going to start my linear dimension. And I'm ready to go from, basically this said, you want to know where all your walls are, but you don't want it to be confusing. And that's where it gets to be a challenge. I'm going to go from my outside wall to the center of this wall. It's not grabbing my center point. I forgot why it's not grabbing that. Should be right there. Let's see. Now to come back here. This is what I typically would do is, again, wall to this wall and pull that up. And that's not the center. And I continue over to the other side of the wall. There's this thickness. Now, this wall actually is the same dimension for the wall down here below. So that is the only place that's occurring. So I'm just gonna pop that there, and I'm just gonna leave it. Now that's one way of dimensioning, okay, for your walls. And then you could also go to your center wall. Let's talk about the interior layout. I'm gonna use these bedrooms down here. Every wall must be tied to an exterior wall by a dimension. The exterior walls get built first, then they build the interior walls on the floor and tip them up into place. So everything's built on the floor and then tilted in place. So I want to know where all of these vertical walls go along here. So I'm going to do a linear dimension. I'm going to go back and fix my settings real quick because I do want these to be face of studs. So wall faces and doors when it's going to be okay. Interior doors do not get dimensioned. Again, interior doors, you do not dimension. You do dimension where the exterior doors are, but not the interior. The reason is if there's an error in the wall, it's the doors that we fix those at, okay? So we don't want to make that too complicated. When I do my annotation here, I'm going to go from this corner, and again, I go corner, so I get each side of the wall, and I know it's a little redundant, but now I'm going to get the closet. I'm going to get that wall, pull that down, hopefully. So I get that, then I go to the next one. There's a corner there, a corner here. And you kind of have to trust your corner selections at first to get used to it. In that corner, there's another wall. And notice they're just stacking up here like flies. It's kind of annoying. But you just keep going, get your walls. And get this wall in here too. It's getting a little tighter. That's okay, we can get it. And coming across, we've got another wall. This is one I still want to fix, but I'll get that later. That point there and there. So that takes me across. I'm not going to cut through the garage because I'm going to do that with a different dimension. I get my dimensions, I line them up to where they make the most sense and place it. So I want a continuous string of dimensions going all the way through those walls. Then you can come in, and if you need to, you can move your wall thicknesses so it's a little easier to read. And that's just going to be something you'd have to decide to do if you want. Like I said, it does remove that material. So if things are being cut out, I'm not going to change that one. This gets a little cumbersome in here, so I'm going to pull that one out. There's another thickness going in here, so I might pull this one down. And I might pull this one up and over here, just so it makes it so it's easy to figure out what's going on there, okay? A couple of confusion things over here again. So I'm gonna use the dot, move things out. Got 6-inch walls here, and so I'm good with that. Okay, now that's a vertical string. On this house, I'm probably gonna need, well, I should have probably got that wall there and that wall there. I missed those two. I would want those in the same strings. So I might have to add those. You want to do the same thing vertically. You want to put the strings where they're going to capture the most walls. The idea is to get as few strings as you can to go through the whole house, so it's all one set of dimensions. It's going to take a while for you to get that all figured out and practiced, but it's doable. I'm going to put another string here because this wall shifts. So in this case, I'm going to come from the corner. Again, there's a corner there, there's a corner there. You get the closet here, the linen closet, bathroom size. And because this wall sticks out, I'm just going to grab the end of that wall. That string ends right there. So I'm going to pull this down, and then I'll clean this up a lot because that's going to tell me this. So I'm going to move here. I'm doing a little bit more of this with you so you get the idea of how much is involved in just the dimensioning side of things. So I'm just going to pull some things out. Again, you're making sure it looks readable. And that fixes that string. So now I know where this wall is. And you can highlight, and it'll show you walls you've got placed. So that's good. I need to do this set here. So string come over to this point here again. And then I would work on this side of the house. Now vertical walls go vertically. So I want to figure out where that's going to be. And I'm going to probably run it right through here, just so you can see one vertical wall, and then I'm going to stop because you guys need work time. So I'm going to take a wall from this corner, get my dimension going. It's going to come up here to the corner of the garage or the closet, get both walls. Keep working up, catch this wall thickness. Come up, here's another wall, so I grab that on my way. Keep going up, one more thickness. You got, it goes by corners, remember corners, and then back to the end wall. And this is all going to be this string here. So now I've got every wall transferred to the outside by dimension. I don't dimension this little cubby here, that's a separate thing. But I do want to make sure things, again, clean them up so it's easy to see what's going on. And by that being a 4-inch, I know there's an error there somewhere. And I got to fix that. So watch for things that are anomalies. So this guy here goes to there. And then you will have to go back in and modify again. So your walls should all have the same thicknesses, unless it's a wet wall or something along those lines. And I'm just going to start moving things a little bit so it's readable. Here's another wall I messed up on. Let's see, which is it? This guy goes to there. So you can fix as you go. That's not a bad thing to do. And you get those vertical dimensions. Okay. You do that same process for the second floor for those of you that have it. If you just have a foundation, you still need to do the overall and the corners and show where those are all at. And when we come back, we'll kind of do some things with those crawl spaces you guys have. We have to make sure they're ventilated correctly and that they're screened from things like rodents, so we keep rodents out. Okay. Any questions on dimensioning? Okay, we're going to turn the next hour and a half over to you guys for work. So you can get as much done as you can today and work from those points of view. So if you've got everything done up to this point, then you're working on dimensioning. If not, hold off on the dimensioning and get everything else caught up. So things like that. Now, questions that you guys might have before we turn you all loose and you all go 16 ways. There's a question we can answer right away for anybody. You good? Anything you want in? Do you remember how to bring the skirts down on our walls? So let's see. So like this wall here, make sure you go back in now. You'll take your base constraint on your wall. It's right now, they're on for the main floor, for example, they are on the first floor. That now changes to top of foundation. So you apply that and drop those walls down to the foundation after you've got your framing done. And you do that on each wall that's on the exterior on the main floor. And then for the same situation, if you're on the upstairs, find a wall I haven't fixed yet. That wall is starting on the second floor. Do not take that to the foundation, okay? Don't do that. You should have that covered with the roof. If it's not, we'll come in and we'll drop that down. I think it's 1'2". We have to apply that to the things that's shown. And I was just looking to see if I had any that were in that condition, and I don't. So anyway, let's kind of dress that up a little bit, make it all pretty and ready to go. Okay. All right, the time is yours. I'm going to stop the recording here, and we'll then go to full on